Returning with additional in-depth inside information about the relationships between Ripple, XRP, and some of the largest banks globally is Lord Belgrave. According to Lord Belgrave, he has been directly involved with Ripple and XRP for the past 10 years as a banker at X City London. XRP influencers have taken notice of some of the aspects he has highlighted. So let's get started immediately. We'll have a clearer idea of what this might signify in the future for XRP holders. Let's establish the scene. In a private boardroom with a view of Canary Wharf, it was late afternoon in London. Senior executives from three of the biggest financial institutions in the world, as well as officials from Ripple, were seated around the table. As one of the directors in charge of the cross-border settlement strategy, I was present. Spreadsheets, cost models, and anticipated efficiencies were presented to us, and the conversation was clinical rather than speculative. The evidence was indisputable. An average transaction uses about 10 drops, or 0.01 XRP, after 1 XRP is equal to 1 million drops. The cost effectiveness remains unparalleled as long as those 10 drips are still worth less than $1. It meant something to every CEO in that room. Settlement times might be shortened from days to seconds, profit margins could be increased, and customer costs could be decreased. The single remaining challenge was finished. Clients, identity verification systems, KYC, and AML. What every international bank has sought for decades, immediate settlement, institutional transparency, and cross-border scalable profitability, will be provided once those are completely aligned with the XRP ledger. Everyone in the room could see that the future of global payments had already been planned that afternoon in London. Consequently, this account, Pompeius, broke this down. He stated, "I think this person is just trying to get clips, but I'm just trying to show you what this would mean." He said that banks are ready for $100,000 XRP. 1 XRP bank price 10 drops, as long as it doesn't go over $1. For banks, XRP would not be as effective if it were more expensive than this. This is pre-programmed, he says. Even though I generally disagree with what he's saying, I wanted to draw attention to it because I know that some people have already questioned me about it. I've seen NDAs throughout the years, but this one from Lord Belgrade a few days ago is, new. I've witnessed NDAs, meetings, and discrete alliances between central banks, significant organizations, and Ripple over the years. I occasionally question whether anything has truly changed. Are the agreements still in effect today? Have any real alternatives surfaced? Nothing has changed, in my opinion. Behind closed doors, everything is playing out precisely as described. According to Lord Belgrade, nothing he has seen in terms of new technology has altered his beliefs over the past 10 years, and he believes that things are only going to become better. In a separate tweet, he adds that the foundation for a major XRP ETP in the UK and EU has been subtly developing for the past 10 days. Institutional access, custodial solutions, and regulatory frameworks are all finally coming into alignment. A completely new wave of compliance liquidity, watch London and Frankfurt, will be unlocked when this launches. Watch London and Frankfurt, I said. What does that mean in your opinion? To find out what this might indicate, I went to Lexi. London and Frankfurt are key financial centers in Europe that are spearheading efforts to provide large XRP investment products, particularly exchange-traded funds, ETFs, which are similar to what we see in the US. This makes them extremely important in the current institutional adoption phase of Ripple and XRP. ETPs and possibly ETFs are the same thing. The foundation for extensive compliance, XRP-based investment vehicles, is being supported by the EU and UK's clear regulations, as well as their strong financial systems. Ripple's strategic base is London. In order to collaborate more closely with banks, regulators, and financial institutions on projects involving tokenization and digital asset payments, Ripple is planning to open a sizable new office in London's central banking area. The regulatory landscape in London is becoming more tolerant of digital assets, and Ripple actively engages in policy discussions to bring its products, including XRP liquidity products, in line with these changing regulations. For organizations seeking to obtain compliant digital asset products, the city is ideal, as new ETPs are probably going to be launched on the London Stock Exchange first. Let's move on to Frankfurt now. Frankfurt, the financial hub of Germany, is another ideal site for the introduction of institutional-grade XRP products. The Xterra exchange in Frankfurt lists a number of ETPs and cryptocurrency investment products. The safe custody and liquidity solutions required for institutional adoption are made possible by the presence of significant investment firms and regulatory agencies. Collaborations and partnerships between Ripple and their Frankfurt-based businesses, such as their work with investment firms and digital asset alliances, have aided in the EU's push for XRP technology and compliant liquidity. Lord Belgrave was referring to their relationships in this passage. After years in global banking, I learned that real change doesn't announce itself, Lord Belgrave said earlier this month. It incorporates inaudibly. The same infrastructure that underpins American Express FX international payments, Visa Direct, and MasterCard Send has already been impacted by Ripple's technology. The testbeds are these. American Express, Visa, and MasterCard are covertly experimenting with Ripple's technology. Value transfer is replacing messaging as the settlement method of the future. Earlier in October, he adds, it became more evident that XRP's presence on major centralized exchanges might be more of a hindrance than a facilitator. This is because price discovery becomes distorted when an asset designed for institutional liquidity is trapped in retail-driven speculative venues. Until XRP functions largely inside the rails for which it was intended, institutional settlement, cross-border movement, and on-ledger utility, not exchange order book, true value won't become apparent. That was pretty nicely put, in my opinion. There are no coincidences in banking or finance. Only after the strategy has been carried out precisely do governments and the media begin to build the narrative. They then package information in order to divert, divide, and guide you through psychology and emotion. Okay, let's discuss a few of those institutional use cases. Derivatives are among them. We are aware that this market is just beginning to grow, but it will be revolutionary when it fully takes over. Forget about sending money back to your uncle in France if you're interested in blockchain and want to earn money. You should be thinking along these lines. Right here, GP, this is the size of the global economy. All derivatives are based on this notional basis. All right, so they are all options and forward futures. The stock market, total loans, unsecured loans, bond market, financial household wealth, total debt, forwards, futures, and options. All assets, all derivative swaps. And finally, all derivatives are all rapidly changing. It simply isn't comparable. Derivatives accept swaps for interest rates. These interest rate swaps are right here. Most of you have never heard of the largest universe. It is possible to add millions of lawyers, traders, and accounts on the blockchain. All right, Dodd-Frank is like this thick, and a lot of it is related to clearing and settling swaps with all of this clearing and settlement system that we took. All right, it's a nightmare. It's a mess. Additionally, we can use distributed ledgers to streamline the entire system. All right, I'd like to discuss, okay. Additionally, Rob Cunningham had a fantastic video here. Now allow me to play this for you. The old order is falling apart world. Transparent ledgers and unchangeable truth are replacing decades of opaque systems based on debt and deceit. A new financial covenant where transparency is the norm and trust is validated is dawning on humanity. The NASDAQ-listed company, which was founded in the center of Texas and is destined to become the global center for cryptocurrency, complies with Basel III transparency standards and ISO 2022. Its goal is to establish itself as the first public-private XRP treasury liquidity hub in history, firmly establishing integrity, responsibility, and verifiable mathematics as the cornerstones of the emerging economy. Evernorth connects two worlds: institutional escrows, where XRP is released programmatically, and retail markets where it moves freely. Imagine the central treasure pool of Evernorth as a throbbing, living thing with a heartbeat rhythm, where the various streams join. A living, breathing liquidity organism is represented by the organic patterns that are created by the combined liquidity flows. These flows come together to form a live, breathing liquidity hub and the beating heart of truthful value exchange through transparent contracts and automated governance. A public-private steward of liquidity founded on the unchangeable laws of creation, truth, order, and balance, Evernorth is expected to transform over the next 10 years from a transparent market player into a globally regulated treasury managed by mathematics. Many members of the XRP army are aware of Shane Ellis's idea, which states that real-world liquidity overtakes available XRP float